Hello and welcome to the Cold Coffee Club, a podcast brought to you by Houston moms. We're here to give you a little bit of that mom-to-mom connection, fun, and conversation amidst all the chaos. Join us as we take a break from doing all the things and explore the wide spectrum of this crazy motherhood role. We'll interview fun guests, talk about cool grown-up topics, laugh, share, and grow together. So go ahead, reheat that coffee, and put your feet up. Here we go.
Good morning. Welcome to the Cold Coffee Club. This is Ashley.
This is Jenny.
Hey, okay. So jumping right in, Jenny, spill some tea for us.
Okay, the tea is that we are experiencing the gloriousness of temperatures that have dipped below 80 degrees.
Woohoo! I'm enjoying it because I get to pull out clothes and I'm like, yes, these have been just sitting here and in jackets and sweaters. But first thing in the morning is rough. I'm like,
It really is though. Like one of the joys of my life is a fireplace. Like it is really, it's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And so we turn it off at like 9 a.m, but early in the morning, I like to turn on my fireplace.
Yeah. I love it.
I've been turning that on and it is nice. Now we still have our hot days and we're still reaching 90 and
it's like bundle up in the morning, bundle up. And then by the afternoon, you're sweaty again. So, whatever. Take the good with the bad, folks.
My kids sure did get a sunburn this weekend. Like that's fine, but
Yep. Well, that's our tea. It's fine.
Yes. What's your cream and sugar this week?
So I'm really excited that the Awesome exhibition, which is an incredible display of fun and unique Lego structures built by the Brickman, Ryan McNaught and his team, is coming to Houston October 29th through December 30th. So you'll get to see all kinds of cool sites built strictly out of Legos. Like there's a Windsor Castle display, there's the Delorean, there's a family of penguins, there's all kinds of cool stuff built with Legos. And then you'll get to build your own little masterpieces while you're there to display at the event. So I have some avid Lego kids at my house, so I'm really excited to get to take them.
So fun.
Yeah.
So we stumbled into something this weekend that I was like, what is this? There's a new, and go with me here. You're going to be like, what are you talking about? There is a new furniture store. Hold on.
Yep. What are you talking about?
Just hold on. There's a furniture store by my house. But people had told me, you need to go to this furniture store. And I was like, all right, I'm really not in the market. But they were like, just trust. So I go in there with my husband and children on Sunday. And it just opened that like in the morning, like we go right and they walk in and we go in and this lady's like, hi, have you been here before? No. And she was like, okay, well, we have, here's our furniture area. Our people are non-commissioned. Our kids area is over here. And I'm thinking kids furniture. No. You go over, there is a fully enclosed child play area with supervision. For free, you put your kids in there. When you get a wristband, you like sign a waiver. It's huge with like TVs and crafts and like there's people and the lady's like, hi, welcome, blah, blah. And the kids are like, peace. You put them in there. There's you walk around and you can shop, or there's a bar with food, and the food and stuff at the bar is like $2. Ashley, let me tell you, Grant and I had beer and wine, and then we ordered for our children chicken tenders and pizza and soft pretzels. We were there for an hour and a half and ate all of that food and had free childcare, and we spent total $13.
Where is this? What?
$13.
Where? I'm going now, and I don't even. What?
But here's where, first off, it's like, what is this business model? What are we doing? But here's where they get you. Okay. They were like, if you buy some furniture, like your furniture bill, when you pay for it, whatever you spent on food, like it will get deducted off of your furniture bill. So like, it's really, they're very smart. But I was like, we're going to be having a date night in the furniture store.
Yeah.
And the children are going to go into that playland. I mean, they were having a ball. The kids were like, this is the best place I've ever been in my whole life. It's called Living Spaces, and it is on I-10 across from the Katy Mills Mall.
Oh my God. Living spaces
And
across
the
from
people
Katy
were
Mills.
just flooding in. We ended up leaving just because it was getting so full. Like I was like, there's a billion people. I mean, people know now. People are like, bring the children to the Living Spaces across from Katy Mills Mall.
I'm trying to pick. When did this open?
Recently, and the whole time I was like, I can't wait to tell Ashley about this.
Oh my gosh.
It's
as soon as I leave the Katy area, then they build this. What in the world? Is it okay? So I'm picturing like
$2.
Katy Mills. So like, you know, American Furniture Warehouse.
So it's right next to that.
It's what?
They built it. And it was funny because when it started being built, everyone was complaining because they'd already built that big American Furniture Warehouse and everyone hated that thing. And so when everyone was like, man, they're building another furniture store. Well, apparently they have one of these living spaces in Austin.
Uh-huh.
And anyone that's moved here from Austin was like, no, we like living spaces. Don't complain.
Calm down, everybody. You're going to love it.
You're going to love it.
Oh my gosh.
Good.
We're going. Oh my gosh. That would have been so perfect when I was like just getting used to being single and having the kids and trying to work. That would have been a game changer.
You get you some $2 chicken tenders.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Yeah, you like looked in the windows. I see Jack like swinging from a rope. He's waving. We're like, hey.
We're just having drinks at the furniture store.
Watching the game.
I love that stuff. I like your cream and sugar a little bit more than I like mine now.
It was incredible.
That's awesome.
This episode of the Cold Coffee Club is brought to you by Home Clean Heroes. I am decent at keeping things tidy. We pick things up around the house, put things away, but what I am not great at is actually taking time to clean. I am not great at scrubbing and vacuuming and dusting and mopping. I always just put it off, and then suddenly things are, let's just say, not great. Busy moms, hear us. If you can bring in someone to help you, you totally should. Let the professionals who really love to clean do what they do best. At Houston Moms, we like to call in the heroes. Here's a few things that we think you will love about Home Clean Heroes. They offer weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly cleanings. They offer one-time cleanings for those move-in and move-out cleans. And my favorite part is that every clean gives back. A portion of each cleaning service is donated directly to local first responders, the real heroes. So check out Home Clean Heroes at homecleanheroes.com/West Houston or call Kristen at 281-824-1850. That's 281-824-1850. And be sure to mention Houston Moms when you book for $100 off your first cleaning. Back to the show. Okay, well, we are really excited for our first little interview. Ashley got to talk to Whitney Pepper. Whitney has been a longtime contributor for Houston Moms, but she's also a pastor. And she and her husband, Tim, adopted their first child, Jace, in March of 2013. And he is living his best dinosaur life. He is our local dinosaur expert of the Houston Moms team. But Ashley had a great conversation with her. Go ahead and roll that, Ashley.
Whitney here with us, and she's going to share with us a little bit about adoption. I know that you have adopted your son Jace, and he is adorable and awesome, and he's obsessed with dinosaurs, which I think is the cutest thing ever. So kind of just tell us a little bit about your story as far as why you chose the adoption route.
So we kind of always knew adoption was probably going to be how we became parents and how we built our family. I had a lot of medical issues growing up, and I ended up having a pretty early in life hysterectomy. And so there was obviously no way for us to have biological children. And so if we wanted to have a family, it was going to be through adoption. And so even though we did try to have biological children, knowing that it was probably not going to work, we knew that adoption was always there. And so it was always something in the back of our minds as, okay, this is probably how we're going to build our family. So it was never really a a second choice. It was never really a fallback. It was just kind of where we knew we were going to end up as we completed the route and the journey that we were on.
Yeah. What were the highlights, the really exciting moments? Of course, I'm sure bringing Jace home was like the number one exciting moment, but just along the way, what kind of great experiences did you have? And then kind of what were the tougher experiences?
So we knew in March of 2011, no, 2012, March of 2012 is when we were finally told that adoption is going to be the only way. And so we had entered into the international adoption program pretty quickly after that. And it was December of 2012 that adoption failed. Like we were on a waiting list to be matched with a child, and that adoption failed. And so we just kind of were crushed, like, oh my gosh, where do we go from here? Yeah. And it was literally, I think 3 weeks later that we got a phone call from a friend who said, my best friend's daughter is pregnant and she's choosing adoption, and they wanted to know if you'd be interested. And literally 5 minutes later, her family called us and the conversation went, he's due in 9 weeks and he's yours if you want to be his parent. And so it was a dramatic shift from being unbelievably crushed to overwhelmed and excited. And so we didn't have a whole lot of prep time. And even with adoption, you still get some leeway time if you're in the process. We didn't have that with our process to adopt Jace, but it was amazing to be able to be there the day that he was born. And so I'll never forget, we couldn't be in the room when he was born, but we were in the little family hallway, and they wheeled him out in a little baby carriage. And I'll never forget when the nurse said, hey mom, here he is. And I looked around, it just took me a second, and Kim said, she's talking to you, babe. And she was, and she put the wristband on me. And I just think that was just the coolest moment, because it went from just complete, it's never going to happen, and devastation, to just looking in this little bassinet and there's this little baby, and he's mine. I get to love him. And so he was in the hospital for 3 days because the state of Texas requires a 72-hour waiting period. And then his biological mom signed her parental rights over to us. They were temporary. So we went to court and we got to take him home. And so he's been with us our entire life, his entire life. And so that's a real beautiful blessing that not all adoptive parents get to have. And so we are really, really fortunate for that.
Yeah, I think that was really, I almost cried, but I also, that was a kind of an interesting slip up that you just did, that he's been with you your entire lives and you met his entire life, but really like he's been there with you your entire life. So it was meant to be. Is his biological mom still like in the picture at all, or?
So his biological mom, he knows who she is, and he has a picture of her. We don't have contact with her, but we do have contact with his biological grandparents, so her parents, and he sees them about once a year, and he knows that those are her parents. And it was just this year, walking to school randomly, he was asking about her, because he talks about her. Adoption is just an extremely open part of our family. And so we were walking to school and it came up, and he just stopped and he said, so does that make them my grandparents?
Yeah.
And I said, well, yeah, they are her mom and dad. And he said, oh, well, that's kind of cool. It just never clicked to him. He knew that they were her parents, but didn't put it all together. And so that was really cool. And so he's asked about meeting her, and he said, you're probably not ready yet. And we also have to wait for when she's ready.
Yeah.
But right now, her parents will send her the pictures of him, and every year on her birthday he writes her a card, and so we have a collection of cards from the last however many years. And he said, when I'm older, I'm going to give these to her. And I said, okay. Like, I don't know what he writes in them anymore. He doesn't let me see them.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So she's not in his life and that he sees her, but she is an integral part of who he is. We always
Yes.
wanted it to be a beautiful part of his story.
Yeah.
And he is. He asks questions about it. And in fact, the other day at school, he mentioned something about adoption, and a classmate said, "Well, I'm so sorry that you're adopted." And he said, "Why are you sorry?" And he said, "Well, that means you were taken away from your real mom and dad." And he said, "No, I wasn't." And he said, "My biological mom, she was never meant to be my mommy. She was only ever meant to be my mom. And so God just put me in her tummy until I could get to my mommy. And now I have more family that love me." And like, to him, it's just part of who he is.
Yep.
And we celebrate his Gotcha Day. We talk about it, and he loves to tell people he's adopted. And
that's amazing.
All the time.
Oh.
Random people say, "Is that your mom?" He goes, "Yeah, I don't look like her though, because I'm adopted." I'm like, "Oh,
I love it.
I know, he's just who he is." And it's a part of us. It's part of our family.
That's amazing. So I know that I've considered in the past, and even still now, I've considered like, what would it be like to adopt? Like, I'm still debating if my family is full, if we're done, and if we're complete. And I know that there are so many kids out there who need parents. And so what would be some kind of advice that you would give to a family who's considering adoption?
One of the things I really wish that I had known or done was to do my own research into foster care. You hear so many horror stories from people about not going to foster care, that the kids they're damaged, or they're going to cause problems, which is so far past the reality of what's really happening. And so we never considered foster care until now, and now it's on the table for us. And so I would definitely tell people to don't disregard foster to adopt. There are so many children that need love, but also do all the research you can, whether it's foster care, it's private infant adoption, it's through an agency, whether it's international. Do your research and then have family conversations, because it's not really just you by yourself. If you're doing it single, or you as a spouse, it is going to impact your entire family.
Right.
It doesn't mean everyone has a say in it, but
Right.
there are conversations that need to be had, and don't be scared of the cost. Sometimes people see that cost and they're like, "Nope, can't do it." But there are so many grants and scholarships available, and so many ways to make adoption financially feasible. And then the last piece of advice is don't pay any attention to anything you have ever seen on TV or a movie about adoption, because no one has ever gotten that right. It's a hot mess. It's not right. No, they get it all wrong. But those are the things that I think are the best if you're going to start. It's going to be overwhelming. It will be overwhelming, because literally everything in your life now is accessible by whatever agency or whatever you're doing, and you have to turn over all this stuff and red tape, and it's overwhelming. But at the end of the day, you're building your family. And what I've told people is your pregnancy was probably overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it was probably expensive.
Yeah.
And it probably took a toll on you emotionally and physically. This is just doing it in a different way, if that's how you're meant to build or continue to build your family.
Yeah, that's great perspective. Yeah, that puts it all into perspective, really. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. That was incredible. And I'm adoring just seeing Jace. I feel like social media has made it possible to like watch other kids grow up and be like, "Oh, look at Jace." I'm like, I've never met him, but he's adorable and he's the sweetest.
Oh, thank you. I like him. And yes, you're right. He is still obsessed with dinosaurs and being a paleontologist and all that good stuff. So no, I'm thank you for having me on, and I'm always here if people have questions, whatever I can do.
Absolutely. And let our audience know where they can find you on social media if they want to kind of follow along with your story.
So I am on Facebook at Whitney Pepper, and it's spelled Pepper. and on Instagram at WPepper, and again, PEPER.
Jenny got to sit down and have a conversation with one of our senior contributors here at Houston Moms, Kirsten. She's originally from Texas Hill Country, and she is a transplant to Houston. She and her husband have been licensed foster parents for years now, and they've been advocating for children and families. And they hope to one day grow their family through adoption. So, Jenny, let's see your chat with Kirsten.
All right. Okay, so tell us a little bit about like how did foster parenting come into your life? How long have you kind of been in that world? Kind of give us a little background there.
Sure. Well, actually, I went on a mission trip when I was about 15, I want to say, and we went into rural Mississippi, and we were kind of helping people rebuild and do different things. We were helping some children who were struggling, and I tried to smuggle one of them on the bus. And my youth pastor was like, yeah, I'll leave him here, right? You can't do that. I'm like, I mean, we can help one. And my poor youth pastor at the time, but and so I always kind of had that in my brain. Like, I can't help all of them, but I could help a few. And so I always knew I was going to be involved with helping children in some capacity. I just didn't know what it looked like. And so I've been involved in children's ministry and mentorship and different things. And then when my husband and I were married, we kind of talked about it, like, what did that look like? And he wasn't so sure. And so I waited a few years, and we belong to a church here in Katy that is very supportive of adoption and foster care. And so we heard about it a lot, and we went to a few like informational meetings. We have a specific support ministry there at the church. And so we attended a few meetings and heard a little more. And I think it starts like most things, right? Like, you just have a series of yeses. And so we said yes to an info meeting, and yes to a couple of things, and yes to an agency. And before long, we have kids in our home. And
wow,
that's where it starts.
I love that, a series of yeses. That's nice. It's kind of like just go kind of say
take
yes
one
to
step
one
forward.
thing, one step at a time. You don't have to go all the way in right away. I love that.
That's right.
So I'd love to kind of know, like, I think everyone is aware of foster parenting, foster care. But I think you kind of hear information from one place and maybe something you see on TV and then something you read in the news. You're in it and kind of immersed in it. What is a misconception you think people have about foster parenting or foster parents?
Foster parents, yeah. We run into a few things, actually, and it can be very far to the negative, and it can be very, very far to the positive. And some of the things we run into is like, oh, they do it for the money. And I'm like, if you find the money, let me know. And so, and it all depends. It depends on the age of the kids and your life and work schedule and the level that kids are at. And we had a school age child, and they do not help you with after school care or daycare, any of that. And
oh wow.
As a full-time set of working parents, I mean, our workday doesn't end at 2:00, right? And so
sure,
for us to get home and get there. And so part of that, you do get a stipend, it helps, but part of that goes to all of their needs. So after school care and food and clothing and all of those things, and that's what it is meant for. And as long as you have foster parents that are doing that, it goes towards that. And you have people who aren't sincere and will use it for not so great things. But I think, and for every case that you see on the news or a negative case, there are thousands of foster parents that care and are stepping into the really broken places of our society, and they want to help. And they want to love on families. And I think another misconception is like, you have these families that are coming in and taking kids, and that's not what's happening at all.
Right.
And for starters, we don't take the kids at all, right? Like, that's a government system. But we are offering shelter to children who need it while their families are working on themselves and working to better. And in some cases, we get to partner with those families. We get to encourage them. We've done that in several ways, like by sending journals back and forth or sending pictures of the kids. And we've had families that even after reunification offer babysitting or have gone to birthday parties, right? Like, there's still a connection there. And depending on how that relationship is approached, it is a partnership, and it's about the whole family. It's not just about like, oh, I'm going to take your kid and hide them away and hope you don't, hope they never see you again. That's not it at all.
Right.
And I think that's a truly misconception about it.
What is a misconception that people might have about foster children, foster kiddos that are coming into this system or into your homes? What maybe is a misconception there?
Yeah, probably a lot. I think some of the things we've run into that I've heard before is like, oh, they're bad kids. All children in foster care are bad kids. I'm like, I see biological children that behave way worse than any foster child I've ever had. So don't pretend like your child isn't biting at daycare, or, having a fit. And the kids did nothing. Right. And that's the truly painful part of it, is these children did not ask to be in foster care. They did not ask to be in our home. And they are just having to deal with the circumstances of the adults in their lives and the decisions that were made. And so they had to pick up their whole life, leave their whole life and go to a stranger's house. So if you can imagine, and I can't remember how old your children are, but one of our first placements were 3 and 6. And so if you can imagine a 3-year-old being told in about 20 minutes that he can grab a favorite stuffed toy, grab some pajamas, and he leaves his house, his family, their school if they have one, their neighborhood, their cities at times, and they're just brought to a stranger's house. And that was even fearful for us. Our first placement was like, how do you introduce these children to us? Like, what does that look like? And they're here for 20 minutes. We all sign paperwork. It looks about like a house lease, and they leave, and you're left as 2 strangers staring each other down, trying to figure each other out. And of course it causes some issues. And so I think that's part of it, is I think there is not enough sensitivity for people to understand that, like, and I've also heard, I bet they're so grateful to be in your home. I'm like, well, like, there are times when they enjoy it, sure, like they get to see new things or do new things, but at the core of their being, they left everything they knew. And they're sure, it's fun. It's kind of like having a sleepover. Sleepover's fun, but after a few days, right,
and they're confused, and it's just it's probably just very just to be uprooted like that. It's just confusing. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would also ask, like, how, if someone was interested in becoming a foster parent, if this is something that's kind of stirring in them, like how do you even start that? Is it like, do you just Google like become a foster parent? Enter like what
you could, you could. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I would say start with an informational meeting. There's tons of them out there. That's been my advice to new people entering foster care, is attend several meetings. And so we're in Region 6, and Region 6 no longer licensed directly through the state. So you cannot no longer get licensed directly through CPS, through the state. You have to go through a third-party agency. And that's a change within the last year or so.
Wow. Okay.
And so, you have your large agencies like Depulsion. I'm sure a lot of people have heard Depulsion, Arms Wide, things like that. You have much smaller agencies. You have faith-based agencies, and so there's a lot of research to be done. We have a support group here, and we had a person who was a law enforcement officer, and so there was certain rules, right? There's certain rules around weapons and things like that, and so she had to find an agency that would work with her because she wore a gun, right? And so there's different things like that you have to consider. What does your life look like? What's important to you? For us, it was important to have a faith-based agency. That was really important. And because that's a big factor in why we were doing this. And we wanted someone who understood that.
Sure.
They pray with us before certain decisions, and I appreciate that. So I would say go to those meetings, find what works and what clicks. before you do anything, find a support group. I don't know what we would do without. So ours is called Tapestry. You could actually find it on Facebook. People can look it up. It's Tapestry foster care support group. And anyone, we have members from all over the US that join it and ask questions and look for information, find resources. So I would say that that's a huge step to getting started. Just like any parenting, it's not easy. There's a lot of stuff to it. The paperwork is a lot. So don't go in blind. Don't go in with rose-colored glasses, and don't go in blind.
Okay. And then my last question would really be, probably a little bit of two-parter. How do we, if you're not interested, or that's not something that you can do at this time in your life, if you're not going to foster, how do we best support our friends, our people in our community that are fostering? What are the best ways we can best support our people in our community that are, and what is helpful as far as either acts of service or words and, encouragement? What are things that are helpful to you, and things that are not helpful to you? How can we best help those that are?
Sure. Funny enough, I wrote an entire blog about this for Houston
I know.
Moms.
I need to pull it. I was just thinking this morning, I was like, I need to go grab that. But yes, let's highlight a few of those items. And
but it's important because I feel like I hear that a lot, right? The statement is, I want to support foster care, but like, I'm not ready to be a foster parent. And I always say, if you're not ready, don't.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Please don't.
Please don't. But there's a ton of things you can do. And I think some of the top ones I've heard from our families are things like experiences. That's what a lot of our kids have lacked. Their families either don't have the time or the resources or just the mental capabilities to organize like a play date or, things like that. And foster parents can start feeling very isolated, especially if they have not built a circle of families around them that also either have adopted or foster care. And they start to feel like we're the only ones going through this, or, oh my goodness, my child's behaviors are just off the wall today and I can't have them around anybody. And I think just verbalizing to them that like, it's okay and that you understand and you aren't going to walk away from them, or you're not going to keep your kids away from them because of what they're going through is important. Being able to have that flexibility and play date, keep your kids safe. And they will too. I've never let any of my children with aggressive behaviors just go crazy, but just knowing that you accept them, knowing that you accept their choice is also a big one. We've lost people in our circles that just didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't think that it was a good idea. They don't support it. And that's fine. This is a choice that we made. And if they can't be on board, then that's fine. But I think just letting them know you support is a big deal. Meals are great, especially when you know a family's getting a new placement, or if there's a court date. There's a lot going on around like those times. And so, or sending them DoorDash, let them just figure it out, right? Like here's your DoorDash, money, and you order when you need to. So things like that are just really helpful. If you have someone that's in your close circle and you're going to be going to the grocery store or doing curbside, say someone in your neighborhood, just send them a text and be like, do you need anything? And maybe they ran out of chicken nuggets, right? And that kid is losing it. Right. Because there is no chicken nuggets because a lot of them have food trauma. A box of 30 nuggets might keep them from a total meltdown, and that'll save their life. And it's small things. It's nice. You'd be surprised what.
And like those don't take a ton of energy. Like that's not like we're. That's amazing.
You don't have to fill out any kind of CPR certification or anything for those. No.
Right. So thank you so much for talking with us today, Kirsten. This has been awesome. I've learned a lot here. There's so much I know I know I need to learn more. So thank you so much. This has been great.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, Ashley, what was your house blend this week on the Houston Mom site?
Yeah, so I am loving the post family-friendly vegetarian eating around Houston. Our contributor Becca Vidrine wrote this. And so I didn't know that there were so many vegetarian options around Houston. And I'm not a vegetarian, but I love a good vegetarian meal from time to time. I think it's a good switch up. But there are so many amazingly delicious sounding options around Houston. So I'm excited to check that out. What about you? What's your house blend?
Yes, mine is from Mary Barnes. And this is, I know it is now November, but we've just wrapped up really important month, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And she wrote a great post called Screenings Save Lives. And she had wrote kind of about her journey, about a lump she found and some biopsies that were done there, and just kind of the importance of catching things early. And as much as, yes, Awareness Month is over, but just get those mammograms, girls.
Yeah.
And go read that post. And it was really helpful for me, as I have not yet had my first mammogram. And so it was just a really great reminder for me to kind of pay attention to those things. All right. So as we wrap up, we kind of have our see you later caffeinator.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Tell us.
Yeah. So as we've kind of been talking about foster and adoption, I did a little bit of research, and I found on the site AdoptUSKids, which is www.adoptuskids.org, that in Texas, as of August 2021, there were 28,753 children in foster care in Texas.
Wow.
5,925 children waiting for adoptive families. If you go to that website that I just mentioned, which is again adoptuskids.org, they kind of have it by state, but on the Texas page, they have state contact information, foster care and adoption licensing requirements, costs to foster and adopt, some post-adoption support services, agency contacts and orientation information. And they have it by, like Beaumont area, Houston area, kind of each agency and who you contact, and just things you can look up. So if this is something after, listening to this episode, if you are kind of wanting to dip your toe in the water there, this is a great place to start. And then also we'll make sure, like, you can DM us. And if you want to be in contact with Whitney or Kirsten or whatever you kind of would like to know, I know they would love to talk with you further if you have any questions there as well.
Yeah. Well, awesome. That's really eye-opening. And, when you, when you put it into numbers, it really makes you think. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining the Cold Coffee Club today.
Bye. See you next week. Bye.
Hey, wait, before you go, enjoy a few outtakes from this episode of the Cold Coffee Club.
All right. Well,
okay, hold on. Oh my gosh, I'm having a massive brain fart. Like, none of my words make any sense on the computer. Like, it just looks.
It's okay. It's okay.
All right.
Do it.
I'm up. I'm awake.
You can do it. You're going to do it. I promise.
Yeah. Okay.
You've been listening to the Cold Coffee Club, brought to you by Houston Moms. We wish you a fabulous week with your families and look forward to sharing many more cups of cold coffee with you.